beneath the living waters on Mandalore.
When you choose to walk the way of the Mandalore, you will see many things.
But it was real.
At this point, I'm starting to believe that Star Wars is sponsored by Coruscant. Since September last year, we've seen the planet in Andor, Tales of the Jedi, Bad Batch, Jedi Survivor, and now The Mandalorian in as many months.
I am not making this shit up!
Either way, we see that eventually every story in this universe has a trail that leads back to this world, whether it be Cal's investigation, the implementation of the Stormtrooper program, the Amnesty program, the death of Yaddle, or in this case, Ahmed Best's return as Grogu's savior on the night of Order 66.
Fan-fucking-dabby-dozy.
Now, while this episode didn't best the incredible series of events that are playing out on the Bad Batch right now, there's a decent load of content to take from this week's installment of our shiny-headed hero. So let me give you a synopsis of events and I'll dig into what I think. This week's episode follows two plots, with one focused on Bo-Katan leading the charge on recovering a foundling that was snatched by a creature native to this world, with the other concentrated on Grogu going through his own forging flashbacks as his dad did before him and receiving his first priority piece of armament on his journey to becoming a Mandalorian. Now, with these two stories being separated in a thoughtful way that makes it easier to follow, I'll break them down as such, starting with Bo. So last week, I said that Bo had an opening here to raise an army against the Imperial remnants that seem hell-bent on retaining Mandalore, and that it could be done by mentioning the mere existence of a living mythosaur. As it would appear, however, it's not quite that simple. Bo tells the armourer by the end that she saw a living one in the living waters of Mandalore, and she just accepts it as someone would when they're told that someone saw God when they were dying. It's more of a devotion to the belief than something actually existing, and the armourer just seemingly can't quite comprehend it. Bo, under the helmet, appeared visibly frustrated in this moment, but kept glaring at the mythosaur crest on the wall, as if it's become her mission now, and quite frankly, I think that's where this could be leading to. As it sits, the armourer, Paz Vizsla, and even Din are devoted to the way of Mandalore, but in a blinded manner, where it's all tales of another time, whereas Bo has had that touch from God scenario play out, where she's been given a reason to believe, and for her to lead again, her word and the Darksaber won't mean anything. She needs to do something that her ancestors did before them, and that's tame the mythosaur and prove its existence. This is a surefire way to cement her position as rightful ruler to the throne and leader of Mandalore once and for all, and if rumours are to be believed and that fleet belongs to Grand Admiral Thrawn, she's going to fucking need it. Plus, we also saw throughout this episode that she's won the hands of her brothers and sisters around her after rescuing Ragnar for Paz Vizsla, who definitely feels like a second in command among this group, so she's certainly won favour there and has proved to be an invaluable player in this game of chess, and proves to be fitting in extremely well among them, like she's always been part of it and could undercut Din in terms of the Creed's allegiances, but I'm happy to just sit back and watch this one unfold. I also enjoyed some of the visuals with her watching over the Creed training on the beachfront, like she's watching her old faction train as they did throughout the Clone War. And the way that she led the squad just came naturally to her. So as the story for the Bad Batch right now is converging on Mount Tantus, I believe this story is converging on Bo leading Mandalore. Now, onto our little green beanie bop. You can always tell when Dave is involved with the show because we draw back to something Clone Wars related. Whether it's this, or From the Desert Comes a Stranger, or The Jedi, he's always got something up his sleeve, and this time, it's giving us an extended look at Grogu's escape from the Jedi Temple on the night of Order 66. This was pretty cool, and to see the return of Ahmed Best after basically being ostracized from Star Wars following his portrayal of Jar Jar Binks was a decent comeback, but underwhelming when you realise that it's just a random Jedi from a children's game show produced back in the dark age of 2020. There's a thematic element here with having this particular Jedi come to Grogu's aid, as Kelleran was known for aiding younglings, but this is the result of heavy speculation and not tempering expectations. It leaves moments like this feeling rather deflating. I'd seen theories for the longest time about who it could have been that rescued Grogu from as far back as The Mandalorian began, with some of the speculated ideas possibly being R2, Quinlan Vos, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and heck, even a couple of clone troopers, which would have been cool, but in the end, we got a Jedi from a children's game show that I didn't even know existed. Regardless, the sequence of events that played out was awesome. From seeing another relentless group of troopers swarm the Jedi, to the chase across Coruscant, to Kelleran and Grogu receiving aid from the security forces of Naboo was brilliant. The details of the environments, the gunships, the clones themselves, and even bringing back Tem to voice them was fantastic, and hits you right in the feels when you see the Jedi Temple burning again. I must admit though, my mind did wonder where Grogu went after we cut away, given that he's discovered in wastelands surrounded by pirates and being hunted by the Empire a little over 30 years later, and is believed to be one of the last of the Jedi to the Empire, so that's why they're looking for him specifically. There's much more to discover about his past, which we'll hopefully explore sometime down the road, but for now at least, we have a little more context. Aside from his little foraging flashback, his interactions with the Armorer were fascinating. To see that she's open to him becoming part of them despite his heritage, shall we say, as being a Jedi, proves that they are open to anyone joining them so long as they adhere to their beliefs and codes. This acts as a way to humanize them as well. They were open to Bo and now Grogu, two members with pasts that do not align with the creeds in the slightest, shows the progression of this cult steadily transitioning into a clan, unified by one Lady Kryze, with a Force wielder on their side. I enjoyed the scene with Grogu facing Ragnar too, as it was rather unique, and I think bears a deeper significance here when you consider that the Jedi and Mandalorians have been at war for centuries. But here, it's just two innocents of both factions squaring off with nothing but their wits and some paintballs. Visuals this week were still a little janky, primarily with Grogu jumping around, but otherwise the creatures were entertaining, especially when you somehow fit 3 of the baby fuckers onto the gauntlet alongside 6 or 7 Mandalorians.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
Then the spectacle of both chase sequences in this episode were well produced, and I will admit that this episode really conveyed the capabilities of a Mandalorian, with a lot of them possessing different fighting styles and ways of how to utilise their weaponry, and it didn't feel overly complex or convoluted. That allowed for this one to breathe and remain a more enjoyable experience when compared to last week. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. If you enjoyed this, hit the like and subscribe to keep up to date with all of my Mando coverage, and until next time everyone, take care, and may the Force be with you.